The first time I saw him, I thought I was witnessing death itself draped in gold. He lay beside the stream like a fallen sun, ribs pressing against matted fur, amber eyes watching me with a hunger that had nothing to do with food. I had been in these mountains for only 3 days when I found him. 3 days of silence with a father I barely knew. 3 days of sleeping in a cabin that smelled of pine and old secrets. 3 days of wondering why my mother had finally sent me away. The summer heat pressed down on everything, thick and relentless, turning the air into something you could taste. I had wandered into the forest, seeking shade and solitude, following a deer trail that wound between ancient oaks until I heard the whisper of water over stones. Instead of peace, I found him. He was the largest wolf I had ever seen, though his body was wasted and trembling. His fur was not white like the wolves in stories, but a deep burnished gold that caught the fragments of sunlight filtering through the canopy. Even starving, even broken, he was magnificent. I should have run. Every instinct told me to flee, to scream, to find my father and his rifle. But his eyes held me there, pinned me to the earth like roots had grown through my feet. Those eyes were not the eyes of a dying animal. They were ancient, knowing, patient. I am not brave. I have never been brave. I was the girl who hid in corners at parties, who let others speak for her, who swallowed her words like stones. Yet something in me recognized something in him, and I knelt by the water and did not move. The stream sang its endless song between us, and the forest held its breath, and we stayed like that until the light began to change. When I finally rose to leave, my legs trembling from holding still so long, I whispered that I would return. I do not know why I made that promise. I do not know why I kept it. But even as I walked back through the darkening woods, I felt his eyes on my back, and I knew with strange certainty that he understood every word. The next morning, before my father stirred from his bed, I stole meat from his cold storage and walked back to the stream. The golden wolf was there, in the same spot, as if he had not moved all night. Perhaps he had not. Perhaps he had been waiting, trusting that I would come. I placed the food on a flat rock and retreated several paces, pressing my back against the rough bark of an oak. He watched me for a long moment, those amber eyes searching my face for something I could not name. Then he dragged himself forward to eat. His movements were slow, pained, his muscles wasted beneath that glorious coat. But his eyes never left mine, and when he finished, he dipped his head once before settling back into the grass. This became our ritual. Every morning, before dawn painted the mountains pink, I would take whatever I could find and bring it to the stream. Deer meat, rabbit, fish from the cold box, sometimes just bread soaked in broth when there was nothing else. The wolf ate everything I offered, and slowly, day by day, I watched life return to his body. His ribs disappeared beneath new muscle. His coat began to gleam. His eyes, which had been dull with hunger, grew bright and fierce. My father noticed the missing food but said nothing at first. He was a man built of silences, tall and weathered, with the same dark hair I saw in my mirror and the same stubborn set to his jaw. We shared meals without conversation, moved around each other like strangers in a house too small for secrets. I had not seen him since I was 7 years old, when my mother packed our bags in the middle of the night and drove us to the city without explanation. 10 years of birthday cards and awkward phone calls. 10 years of wondering why she had taken me away, why he had let her. He had not wanted me here. That much was clear from the way he flinched when he first saw me step off the bus, from the spare room that smelled of dust and old grief, from the way he looked at me sometimes like I was a ghost wearing his daughter's face. But my mother had insisted, had said it was time, had looked at me with tears in her eyes as she pressed the ticket into my hands. Time for what? She never explained. She only held me close and whispered that she loved me, that she was sorry, that I would understand soon. By the second week, the golden wolf could stand without trembling. He would pace along the far bank of the stream when he heard me coming, his tail swaying slowly, his ears pricked forward. By the third week, he would rise when he heard my footsteps and meet me halfway, crossing the stream with powerful strides that sent water splashing against the stones. I started talking to him then, sitting on my flat rock with my knees drawn to my chest, telling him things I had never told anyone. I told him about my mother's sudden distance these past months, the way she would look at me and start to speak, then shake her head and turn away. I told him about the dreams that had plagued me since childhood, dreams of running through forests under a silver moon, dreams of howling and hunting and belonging to something vast and wild. I told him about the feeling I had carried my whole life that I was waiting for something I could not name, that there was a door somewhere inside me that had never been opened, that I was only half of what I was meant to be. He listened. I know that sounds foolish, but he listened in a way no human ever had. His amber eyes would track my face, my hands, and sometimes he would tilt his great head as if parsing the meaning behind my words. When I cried, which I did more than once, he would press his nose against my palm and breathe warm air across my skin until the tears stopped. I called him Solaris, for the sun, for the gold, for the way he had become the brightest point in my colorless days. One evening, as the summer sun bled orange and crimson across the sky, I stayed later than usual. Solaris had grown strong now, his coat gleaming like hammered metal, his muscles rebuilt beneath the gold. He stood beside me at the stream, so close that I could feel the heat radiating from his body, could smell the wild musk of his fur. Without thinking, I reached out and touched him. His fur was coarser than I expected, warm and thick and alive beneath my fingers. He did not pull away. Instead, he pressed into my palm, and a sound rose from his chest, something between a growl and a purr that vibrated through my bones. In that moment, I felt a door open somewhere inside me, a door I had not known existed. Something stirred in my blood, ancient and patient and hungry, something that recognized him not as animal, but as kin. That night, I dreamed of running, not as myself, but as something else. Something with 4 legs and a heart that beat like thunder. I ran through forests I had never seen, beside wolves I did not know, and the moon above was so bright it turned the world to silver. I could feel the earth beneath my paws, could taste the wind on my tongue, could hear the heartbeat of prey hidden in the underbrush. When I woke, gasping and drenched in sweat, my muscles ached as if I had truly run for miles. There was dirt beneath my fingernails that had not been there when I fell asleep. The dreams continued. Each night, they grew more vivid, more real. I would wake with pine needles in my hair, with the taste of blood on my tongue, with a howl dying in my throat. I started avoiding mirrors because my eyes looked wrong, too bright, too gold around the edges. My hearing sharpened until I could hear my father's heartbeat from across the cabin. My sense of smell became overwhelming, the world suddenly full of scents I had no names for. My father watched me with growing unease. Once, I caught him standing in my doorway at midnight, staring at me as I slept with an expression I could not read. When I asked what was wrong, he shook his head and walked away without a word. But I saw his hands trembling. I saw the fear in his eyes. And beneath the fear, something else. Something that looked almost like hope. Solaris began to change too, or perhaps I simply began to see him clearly. There was intelligence in his gaze that went beyond animal instinct, a knowing that made my skin prickle with awareness. Sometimes I would find him watching the cabin from the tree line at dusk, a golden shadow among the pines, his eyes fixed on my window. Sometimes I would hear howling in the night, long and mournful and achingly beautiful, and I would know with absolute certainty that it was him calling to me, calling me home. One morning, I woke before dawn and walked to the stream without bringing food. I do not know what drew me there, I only knew that I had to go, that something was waiting for me, that the world was about to crack open and show me what lay beneath. Solaris was there, but he was not alone. A silver wolf stood beside him, smaller and leaner, with pale blue eyes that assessed me coolly. Behind them, half hidden in the morning mist, I could see others. Gray shapes, white shapes, shadows with eyes that gleamed like stars. Solaris made a low sound in his throat, and the silver wolf dipped its head before vanishing into the undergrowth. The others followed, melting back into the forest like they had never been. But I had seen them. I had been seen. He is introducing me to someone, I thought. The idea should have terrified me. Instead, it felt like a test I desperately wanted to pass. After that, I saw other wolves everywhere in the forest. Never close, never threatening, but always present. A gray shadow between the birches when I walked to the stream. A white flash disappearing over a ridge when I climbed the hill behind the cabin. A pair of yellow eyes glowing in the darkness beyond my window when I could not sleep. They were watching me, circling me, drawing closer with each passing day. And Solaris was always at the center, their golden king, their alpha, their heart. The night everything changed. The heat broke at last. A storm rolled in from the west, black clouds piling against the mountains like an army preparing for war. The air crackled with electricity, with potential, with the weight of something about to be born. I could not sleep. My skin felt too tight, my blood too hot, my bones aching like they wanted to reshape themselves. I paced the cabin like a caged thing, and my father watched me from his chair by the fire with something like grief in his eyes. "Elena," he said. My name in his mouth sounded like a prayer and a warning. "There are things I should have told you, things your mother made me promise to keep secret. But I think the time for secrets is over." But before he could speak, a howl split the night. It was Solaris. I knew it instantly, but this was not the howl I had grown to know. This was a summons, a command, a claim. It reached inside my chest and wrapped around my heart and pulled. I was out the door before I could think, running through the rain and the darkness toward the sound. My father shouted behind me, but his voice was lost to the storm. Lightning split the sky, illuminating the forest in flashes of white and silver, and I ran. I ran until my lungs burned, until my legs screamed, until the forest opened into a clearing I had never seen, and there I stopped. Solaris stood at the center of the clearing, but he was not alone. Around him, emerging from the trees like ghosts made flesh, came wolves. Tens of them, scores of them. I counted until I could not count anymore, until the number became meaningless, until there were so many that the clearing seemed to ripple with fur and eyes and breath. 100 wolves, maybe more, all arranged in perfect silence, all watching me with eyes that gleamed in the stormlight. Gold and silver and amber and ice, every color, every shade. A sea of wolves, and at their center, their golden king. But it was Solaris who held my gaze. He walked toward me through the rain, his golden fur dark with water, his amber eyes blazing with a light that was not reflection. Thunder rolled overhead, and lightning cracked, and still he came. When he reached me, close enough that I could feel his breath on my skin, he did something I will carry with me until I die. He lowered his great head and pressed his brow to my heart. Then he pulled back, looked into my eyes with an expression that was almost human, and bowed. Behind him, as one, the 100 wolves followed. Every head lowered, every body curved toward the earth, every eye turned away in submission. To me. They were bowing to me. And then Solaris changed. It was not violent. It was not grotesque. It was like watching water become mist, like watching night become dawn, like watching a flower bloom in the span of a single breath. One moment he was wolf, golden and wild and beautiful. The The next he was man, kneeling before me in the rain, naked and rain-slicked, his hair the same burnished gold as his fur, his eyes the same amber fire. He was beautiful in a way that hurt to look at, all sharp angles and lean muscle, his skin marked with scars that told stories I could not read. "I have waited for you," he said. His voice was low and rough, unused to human speech, but each word was clear as a bell. "My Luna, my other half, I have waited lifetimes for you to come home." I should have screamed. I should have run. I should have done anything other than stand there in the rain with my heart pounding and my blood singing and tears streaming down my face. But the door inside me that had opened weeks ago now swung wide, and what poured through was not fear. It was recognition. It was homecoming. It was the answer to every question I had never known how to ask. "You are mine," he said, rising to his feet, "and you are theirs. And you always have been. Your mother tried to hide you, tried to give you a human life, but the blood always calls, Elena. It always finds its way home." He stepped closer, and I did not step back. He took my face in his hands, and I did not flinch. When his lips touched my forehead, gentle as a blessing, my blood ignited. The heat was unbearable and exquisite, a burning that began in my chest and radiated outward until every cell of my body was aflame. I heard myself cry out, felt myself fall, felt hands catch me and lower me gently to the earth. The transformation was nothing like the stories. There was pain, yes, a searing agony as my bones broke and reformed, as my muscles tore and rewove themselves into new configurations. But it was the pain of becoming, the pain of a bud breaking into bloom, the pain of birth. My bones knew what to do. My muscles remembered what they had never learned. I felt my spine curve, my limbs shorten, my senses explode into dimensions I had never imagined. The world became scent and sound, became heartbeats and heat signatures, became a symphony so complex and beautiful that I wept without tears. When it was over, I stood on 4 legs in a body that fit me better than my human form ever had. My fur was dark silver, almost black in the rain, shot through with streaks of white like lightning frozen in place. I lifted my head to the storm-torn sky and howled, and the sound that came from my throat was grief and joy and triumph all woven together. The pack answered. 100 voices rose to meet mine, and the clearing became a cathedral of sound. The howls echoed off the mountains and rolled across the valleys and filled the night with music older than words. Solaris, wolf again, pressed his flank against mine, and I understood without words what I had become. Luna, the alpha's mate, the heart of the pack, the keeper of the wild and wounded things. My father found me at dawn. The storm had passed, leaving the world washed clean and sparkling with rain. I was human again, lying in the wet grass of the clearing, naked and shivering and more alive than I had ever been. He wrapped his coat around me and held me while I cried, and for the first time in 10 years, he felt like my father. "Your mother was one of us," he said, his voice cracking on the words. "One of the strongest Lunas our pack had ever known. She left before you were born because she wanted to give you a choice, a chance at a normal life. She thought if she raised you in the city, away from the mountains, away from the pack, the wolf in you might sleep forever. But the blood always calls, Elena. It always finds its way home." I asked him why he never told me, why he let me live 17 years not knowing what I was. He said he was afraid I would hate him for what he had made me, afraid I would run, afraid I would choose the wilderness over him the way my mother once had. I told him I could never hate him. I told him the wilderness was not a choice, but a birthright, and I was grateful, finally, to claim it. Solaris came to the cabin that evening in his human form. He wore clothes now, borrowed from my father, and his golden hair was tied back from his face. He and my father spoke for hours while I listened, learning the history my mother had hidden from me. Our people had lived in these mountains for centuries, guardians of the old ways, keepers of the balance between human and wolf. We were not werewolves in the way of horror stories, monsters driven by the moon to madness and murder. We were something older, something sacred, shapeshifters blessed by the spirits of the wild, bound to protect the land and all who dwelled upon it. My mother had been Luna before me, had loved my father with a fierce and desperate love, had left when she saw what the life demanded. The sacrifices, the danger, the weight of 100 souls depending on her strength. She had wanted something easier for me, something softer. But I am not my mother. I do not run from hard things. The summer deepened, and I learned to move between my two selves like water moving between stones. Solaris taught me to hunt, to track, to speak in the silent language of the pack. He taught me how to read the wind, how to move without sound, how to feel the heartbeat of the forest beneath my paws. My father taught me the human side, the history, the responsibility. He taught me the old stories and the old songs, the rituals that bound our people together, the duties of a Luna to her pack. I learned that being Luna was not about power, but about service. Not about commanding, but about caring. About holding the pack together through hard winters and lean summers. About being the calm center around which the wild could safely spin. About loving fiercely and forgiving freely, and fighting with everything you had for those who depended on you. On the night of the solstice, under a moon so full it seemed to fill the entire sky, the pack gathered in the clearing where I had first transformed. Solaris stood beside me in his human form, his hand clasped in mine, his amber eyes soft with love. One by one, every wolf came forward to press their brow to my palm. An oath, a promise, a bond that could never be broken. I touched each one, felt each heartbeat, knew each soul. I fed a starving wolf because I could not bear to watch him die. I did not know I was feeding my future, my fate, my forever. But that is how the great things happen, I think. Not with fanfare and prophecy, but with small acts of mercy that ripple outward until they reshape the world. My name is Elena. I am the Luna of the Golden Mountain Pack, and this is only the beginning. The last wolf to approach me that solstice night was small and young, barely more than a pup, her fur white as fresh snow. She pressed her nose to my hand and then looked up at me with eyes full of trust, and something in my heart cracked open. I knelt and held her, and I made a promise I intend to keep for the rest of my life. I promised that no wolf in my pack would ever go hungry, ever go alone, ever go unloved. This is what it means to be Luna, not a queen, not a goddess, but a guardian, a keeper of hearts, a tender of the wild and wounded things. Solaris found me there, still kneeling in the grass with the pup in my arms, and he did not speak. He simply lay down beside me, wolf again, his golden head in my lap, his amber eyes closing in contentment. Around us, the pack settled into sleep, 100 bodies breathing as one, 100 hearts beating in rhythm with the pulse of the mountain itself. I stayed awake until dawn, watching over them all. My father, sleeping peacefully for the first time in years. My mate, golden and glorious, dreaming wolf dreams at my side. My family, my pack, my people. Mine to protect, mine to cherish, mine to love. The summer sun rose over the mountains, painting the world in shades of gold and rose, and I lifted my face to its warmth. Somewhere in the distance, a lone wolf howled, and the sound was not lonely anymore. It was a greeting, a welcome, a song of homecoming. I smiled, and I answered. I was finally, irrevocably, eternally home.